Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and now I will speak about a little bit different fishery. Daniel was saying about necessity of having a catch data and also necessity of reconstructing that catch data, but I will speak to you today about a fishery where we can say there is no data at all. When we are speaking about Elasmobranchs in Mediterranean, we can say that there is 85 species, roughly, 49 sharks and 36 rays. Why I'm saying roughly? Because we all the time still we are having taxonomy problems, and especially within a ray group, and we are not sure actually how many species we have. So in many reports you will have numbers from 85, 86, 84. Probably that will be changed even in the future. So, but roughly we have around 85 species. The picture that you are seeing down is a presumption, shall we say, about the diversity of species, especially Elasmobranchs, and it is based on best available data. But if you're looking at the picture, you will see here at Eastern Mediterranean a lots of blue colors. Blue color means that there is a low diversity of Elasmobranchs, and we can ask ourselves, is this true actually? It is true on available data that we have. But if you're looking that we have a Suez Canal here, possible influence of Lepsepsions migrants, and lots of other information that now we are getting with some new tools, we can say that probably this picture will be changed in the future. But again, it is giving us at least a picture that we are thinking that it's true right now. So, what is fishery of Elasmobranchs in the Mediterranean? Usually, nobody is saying that there is a target fishery, although we know that there is a target fishery in existing in Mediterranean, especially recently. Previously, we knew that there is a target fishery with gillnets in several areas of Mediterranean and during the certain seasons. But now, what we are getting the data from the field, we know that there is also the switch of fishery, which means that lots of these species were under subject of bycatch fishery, but because of the target species have been declined, there is a switch for Elasmobranchs from the bycatch species to target species, especially in the longlines and the gillnets. Regarding the bycatch fishery, the Elasmobranchs are actually caught with various fishing gear, from trolls, longlines, gillnets, tremal nets, and purse seints. And when we are speaking about what does it mean bycatch, there are lots of different definitions of bycatch, but my preferable definition is that all catches of sharks and rays in fisheries targeting other species are actually bycatch. When we are speaking about the bycatch, we are always also thinking, is that discarded species or just bycatch species? But most of the sharks are not only discarded, especially juveniles and very small ones, which doesn't have economical importance, they are discarded. But most of them are caught because they have commercial importance. But later we will speak about it, they are not reported. So in many cases, we can say that in most of the cases, we are not aware of the amount of the bycatch of Elasmobranchs and also the target species that are caught in the Mediterranean. If you look at the trends that we are having here, you can see the trends that there is a decline, according to official FAO statistics, that there is a decline of all Elasmobranchs catches from 1980 until 2008. Also, if you're looking at different groups, we can say also there is a decline, but we have always to be very cautious with these FAO statistics, because actually specific species-specific data in the Mediterranean are not existing. Mostly what is reported is a shark group or the ray group. And actually many countries that are involved in the fishery of Elasmobranchs are not reporting anything. For example, if you look at this picture, you will see this is a total catch of all Elasmobranchs in the Mediterranean according to the countries. And you can see that most of the countries, the only 3 countries are reported. That means Italy, Tunisia, and Turkey. And you can see that these green bars are actually showing the catch that is supposedly caught and reported by other countries. So if you're looking at this, we can say that it's roughly true. But if you're looking better in this, that means that these green bars are showing you that, for example, Spain, France, Croatia, Greece, Morocco, Algeria have caught only a small portion of Elasmobranchs, and we can, I think, agree that it's absolutely not true. So from this point of view, FAO statistics regarding Elasmobranchs is not even nearly on the level which is actually accurate and precise. That's the reason why Mediterranean Sea is characterized as probably the worst area for Elasmobranchs on the Earth. Within 85 known species, 71 have been assessed by IUCN. And there is a highest number of vulnerable species, which are vulnerable, endangered, and critically endangered species than anywhere else in the world. And because I'm also IUCN Shark Specialist Group co-president for Mediterranean, I can say that this assessment was made during 2003-2004. It was published in 2006, that means 10 years ago. And that was actually the first assessment of Elasmobranchs in the Mediterranean. And currently there is an ongoing process of new assessment that will start in 2014. And already according to the new available data that we are having, we can say that the situation will be even more worse than before. Because, for example, if you look at this number, the data deficient species are 18. That means that we didn't have any kind of info on these 18 species. Now we are having a better number and better data, and that will be changed. But as I said, probably with the worst scenario. Also, what I want to emphasize is that probably in Mediterranean, Elasmobranchs are the only species, shall we say, that are virtually, some of them are virtually extinct. Although, for example, Pristis species, 2 of them, Pristis and Pristis pectinaca, are considered as only critically endangered. We are thinking that they are actually extinct in the wild because nobody has seen them for the last 100 years. So if nobody's seen them in Mediterranean for the last 100 years, we cannot say that they are just critically endangered, because the right term will be extinct in the wild. So this is just a good example of the status of Elasmobranchs in Mediterranean. The main problem, probably, for the Mediterranean Elasmobranchs are, especially for the bottom species, are the bottom trolls. I have put this picture deliberately because when I have calculated, just this catch on just one boat is the bigger than total reported catch for the whole country. I will not mention this country, which one it is, but the calculation was that just this boat caught a bigger reported catch than countries actually reporting during the year. And of course it was caught by the troll. These are the Mustelus species, but the problem in Mediterranean with the trolls is, because probably you are all aware that the mesh size of Mediterranean trolls is rather low. It's just around 50 millimeters, and there is no any kind of selectivity toward Elasmobranchs with the trolls. So when you compare also difference between what the troll is catching and what, for example, other fishing gear is catching, if you compare the troll, for example, in the long line of Mustelus within the Gulf of Gabes area, you can see that, for example, the main specimens that are caught are around 55 to 65 centimeters in length, while in the long line, this average landing size is much bigger. Also, when you compare the gillnets and the trolls, which they are catching Glaustegus chemicals, you can see also that the portion of mature is much higher in gillnet catches than in troll catches. Because it's, as I said, even before, that if anything is on the pathway of the troll, it will be virtually caught by the troll, because, as I said, there is no any kind of selectivity. Now, when we are speaking about declines, there is lots of evidence of declines of Elasmobranchs in Mediterranean. Many of them are actually saying that there is even more than 19% declines for most of the species. But lately I have heard that for some species, declines are not evident, but they are actually in stable scenario, on stable level. But I'm a little bit disagreeing with that. Why? Because I want to show you an example. This is an example from my country, from Croatia, which conducted a huge research 3 years after the Second World War in 1948. And they have made a research by the trolls on different stations, and this was actually abundance and distributions of all Elasmobranchs in Adriatic. 50 years after, the research was repeated on the same stations as before, and this was the result. As you can see, there is a huge difference in a color. Pretty much everything is white. So this is an example of what have happened 50 years after, because if the first research was conducted in 1948, we can say that this was pretty much virgin state of all populations, and this is the lower picture is showing you what had happened with those Elasmobranchs 50 years after. Also, when you are going in more detail, for example, these are the details for Thornback ray, Raya clavata. This was the case in 1948, and as you can see, that species was considered as really common species, widely distributed. But unfortunately, 50 years after, the case is this. It is virtually extinct, nearly extinct. It is still caught few specimens during the year, but after 50 years, virtually they are not living there anymore in Adriatic. But then, because of that, we have a trap, sort of a trap. I've seen on several presentations here on CIESM where few of my colleagues said that according to the data, everything, Elasmobranchs are in stable conditions. But they have a data in period of 5 years. What have happened with 5 years and what have happened today? If everything is stable, then it should be stable. But if you compare this is from 1998. Probably, we know that pretty much decline from 1998 up to now is not big. And are we able to say that there is no problem with Elasmobranchs because they are in stable condition? Because we are forgetting what had happened in 50 years period? No, but because we are witnessing and we are seeing that after 50 years they have actually declined and rapidly declined, and there is existence of only small population of small numbers, and if we are maintaining those small numbers, that doesn't mean that Elasmobranchs are in stable conditions. No, this means actually totally opposite, that we are not able to increase already depleted population. So then we are going to the case of the management. What are the problems with Elasmobranch management in the Mediterranean? That most of what every fishery manager is asking is actually stock assessment of some certain species, but management models based on that are used for chondrichthyans or Elasmobranchs are based actually on telest fishery, and they are actually inadequate to Elasmobranch populations of Mediterranean, which are characterized by the really, really low numbers. Even in case of EU, we already know what stock assessment and how the what does it mean, and how the management is actually resulting with TELUS, for example, fishery. That even EU Commission said that 62% of EU stocks in Atlantic are already overfished, and 82% of all stocks in Mediterranean are overfished. So many of those have been managed according to certain stock assessment. But as I said, with those stock assessment models are actually not suitable for Elasmobranchs populations of Mediterranean. Also, everything what is actually coming out as a result from this stock assessment and management, actually those techniques and measures are not sufficient to ensure the long-term survival, because we have seen it even in previous example that I have already told you, that we are not able to increase any of species of Elasmobranchs that have been declined over the last 50 or 60 years. The efficiency of catch data, species-specific land data, CPU data, fishing effort, this is an absolutely general problem for Elasmobranchs. As I told you, most of the countries, if they even report something, they are reporting sharks groups, ray groups. About specific species data, we don't have anything. So how to make any kind of stock assessment? It doesn't matter, is it a good one or not good one, if we don't have any kind of data. CPU data are not existing. Fishing effort for Elasmobranchs are not existing. So we don't have any tools or any parameters that can be used for having a sort of accurate or precise presumption on which level the Elasmobranchs in Mediterranean are. Further, we have a total deficiency of specific biological and ecological data, so for Mediterranean populations, because what we have seen in most of the populations in Mediterranean, that they are actually really Mediterranean populations, not only part of Eastern Atlantic populations. Even before, we have thought that for highly migratory species such as blue shark, such as short-finned mako, we have been thinking that actually they are part of Eastern Atlantic population, but latest data are showing that actually it's not true. That blue sharks, for example, in short-finned mako, poor beagles in Mediterranean are actually part of Mediterranean population and not the part of Eastern Atlantic. So we don't have any kind of mostly we don't have any kind of research on biological and ecological data of these Mediterranean populations. So when we are trying to use something, we are usually using the data from other populations, but who is saying that those data are actually true for and reliable for Mediterranean populations? Then we have a multi-species fishery. The problem with multi-species fishery is that it's always used as a reason for not doing nothing. Pretty much not only in Elasmobranchs case, but also in TELUS case, because EU, everybody knows that there are common regulations for the rest of the Europe and the regulations for Mediterranean. Why? Because we have a multi-species fishery. And as I said, we cannot use that as a reason for not doing anything. And what is happening when we are speaking about target species and bycatch species, I'm asking sometimes the question, what will happen in the case when the value of the species is so high, for example, for blue sharks, for short-finned mako, that they are still profitable even for fishermen to continue with fishing, although they are severely already declined. But they are actually continuing, because there are some theories that if the stock will be depleted, actually fishery will be stopped. But in this case, it will not be stopped. They will continue to fish them until, shall we say, the end. And also, what will happen in case when we are in Mediterranean case, when we have a multi-species fishery, when those Elasmobranchs are actually not target species, but they are bycatch species? Will they stop with fishery if the bycatch species will be declined? No, they will continue, because the target species are actually on sort of a good level. So again, they will continue to fish, and also that will cause the problem for the Elasmobranchs as a bycatch species. Another thing is, as I already told you regarding the trolls, for example, non-selective fishing gear, but actually I'm not aware if there is any kind of research for improving selectivity of fishing gear toward Elasmobranchs. We know that there are possibilities to do something, but it's not actually an issue in, shall we say, scientific world, or shall we say, in, I can say to a European Commission, they are not interested in that, because they have bigger problems with the selectivity toward teleost fishes. But again, we can do at least something, at least in some way to improve that selectivity. And also the huge problem for Mediterranean populations is that there is no any kind of regional measures for migratory species, and it's already known that a much higher percentage of migratory Elasmobranchs are susceptible to unfavorable conservation status than, for example, non-migratory species. I mean, if there is a sort of management in one country of migratory species, if there is no, in other 19, 20 countries, there is no any kind of management, that means that it's not actually useful. So what we have to do in the future is actually to strengthen the connection between the countries in the Mediterranean in order to have a regional management of migratory species. These are the basics of Elasmobranchs management in the Mediterranean. We cannot say that there is nothing in theory. In theory, it exists the FAO Code of Conduct for Responsible Fishery, which is saying that states should apply precautionary approach, taking account of the best scientific evidence available. That is also implemented in the Common Fishery Policy, for example, in the Council Regulation, where it's written that we should ensure sustainable exploitation of living aquatic resources, and also we should apply the precautionary approach to protect and conserve living aquatic resources. But I'm not sure that there is even one management exists in Mediterranean which is based on precautionary approach. I'm not saying for Elasmobranchs, I'm saying for fishery in general. Also, we have FAO IPO sharks that all the states contributing to fishing mortality on species or stock should participate in its management. Also, we have action plan, but the problem is always that we don't have these plans implemented in national legislation. And again, when it's actually implemented in national legislation, we don't have a regional connections. So how we can improve the management measures? For example, we can say and we can regulate size limits. There are two different approaches. For example, fishing of juveniles or fishing of adults. We are usually in Mediterranean. We are always concerned about fishing of juveniles. But I can just tell you that, for example, in Australian management of Elasmobranchs, they are on certain species, they are concentrate on fishing of only juveniles and not adults. Why? Because in that way they are allowing the adults to spawn in a normal way, and in that way they are maintaining the populations. Of course, enforcement of these measures in Mediterranean is probably a little bit more tricky than in Australia, because Australia has its own sea, while in Mediterranean we have 20 and more countries. So again, we are having a problem with regional management. Temporary closure of fishing areas, it's always a good thing. But again, you always have a problem with fishing industry because they are not happy with it. Of course, it will be helped, but how it's possible to do that in practice, that's another thing. Improving fishing gear selectivity, that's the case which I was already saying. For example, we are not having any kind of devices or separator grids which can be used for separate Elasmobranchs from the other species that are targeted. Also, the long lines can be changed. I mean, selectivity of long lines can be changed by using a different bait. Because, for example, if you're using lots of squids, you are able. You can change and switch the target species. But one of the most important things is detecting and establishing and protection of nursery and spawning areas that we already know. For example, in the Gulf of Gabes, we already know that this is a huge area which is used for as a spawning and nursery area for many of the shark species. And also in Adriatic, we also having several spawning areas and nursery areas for some species, especially, for example, I will emphasize here poor beagle, because currently the poor beagle nursery area in the Adriatic is probably only known nursery area for the whole Mediterranean population. But it's not that we are having only these areas. We have, for example, we have been speaking about it lately, about Boncuk Bay in Turkey regarding the sandbar sharks. Then we have regarding the small-toothed sand tiger near the Beirut in Lebanon. Also, lately we are having lots of information that are coming from Aegean Sea and Levantine Sea, which was on this first picture that you have seen considered as a blue area with the low diversity. But now we are having lots of different data about great white sharks, short-finned mako that are probably spawning there. And just in case, what we have done in Croatia, for example, that since August 2009, 22 chondrichthyans, which means 16 sharks and 7 batids, they are having a strictly protected level of protection in Croatia. Of course, it is valid only in Croatian waters, and if you can see here, there is lots of highly migratory species. So again, this is just a small step for those migratory species, but it has to be done all over the Mediterranean. And the last slide will be sort of advertisement, or what the CIESM has done just lately, I mean 2 or 3 months ago. This is a new CIESM forum on red sharks, where we have tried to get new information. I mean, we don't have ability to get a specific biological, ecological information. But on this forum, we are already getting lots of new small pieces of information which are giving us a larger picture. And this is probably one of the best ways in gathering information on the all Elasmobranchs species within all of Mediterranean, because most of the Mediterranean people which are involved in the CIESM are actually can participate with new data in this forum. So that will be it for today. Thank you.
Perfect.